12:41, we'll call this meeting, the policy subcommittee to order. All right. Two things up first, the MASC policies. So the first one, Carol, this goes back to the issue with the survey.
Yep.
Okay, we just got to deal with it.
ILD.
ILD is a policy that MASC has that we do not have. Well, in our everything I looked up when this issue came up the other month or whatever.
Yep.
This is what they have. So apparently this is based on federal regulations, right? You're not allowed to send. So I know Kim spoke on this a little bit. She sent us that email. It seems like reading this policy here and hearing what Kim had to say, because this survey was sent by a student, that's the loophole to get around this.
It is.
I'm curious what Kim would have to say. Like, I wouldn't think so since it was approved by the school, even though it came from a student. I would think that still falls under here. So I think we should add a little bit of language to this just to sort of bolster it.
All right, and what I would do, Mike, because it is exactly that. So I did some research, and I actually found, I'm going to give these to you this is a Student Media Guide to Surveying Classmates. It speaks to exactly what you're talking about. Can I give this out? Did this have to be part of the agenda?
No.
Oh, okay. I actually just found this over the weekend, but I was going back
This
to the
is from
notes.
us or something else?
I found it online, but there was other things that Kim had talked to us about. We have to be very careful that we're in putting more language in that we're not violating the law too. So anything that we or you would wanted to change as a school committee, we should have that vetted by an attorney. So
Yeah,
we have to
sure.
tread lightly, otherwise we end up
So I think the issue here, Carol, is there's 8 categories, just like any protected class.
right.
That if you're going to survey kids about these 8 categories, it doesn't say you can't do it. It says that you need to notify parents beforehand and allow them to opt in.
Yeah, because I actually noted that, Mike. The second paragraph below the 8 categories says a parent guardian may inspect upon request a survey created by a third party before the survey is administered or distributed to a student. And I also believe, if you go down to the bottom one where it says the district will directly notify parents, guardians annually at the beginning of the school year, this speaks to IHAMA as
Right.
well.
That's why I put it on there. Yes.
Right, so I'd want to go back and look at that. Do I have that one? Yep. So I think the difference here is that it's not a curriculum. I'm just pointing out things.
Okay, no, it's good.
It's not a curriculum. It's not instructional materials. It's and it's not something taught in the classroom per se. If it was a topic, speaking to.
So that's the issue that we need Kim's advice on, right? Because it wasn't part of the curriculum.
Right.
But it is, because it's the project itself is part of the curriculum. The subject that came up as part of the project is, I would assume that because the project is the curriculum, then when you do a project on this subject, these rules should apply. So if the project is, social studies project, and let's say the question was something about, what do you feel about the current election cycle and the politics involved?
Right.
That probably doesn't fall under here because I'm not sure
Number 1. Oh, no.
Okay.
Political affiliations or
Probably-
beliefs
all
of
right, so
students,
that's a bad example. Okay, so let's say, I don't know, any other subject that's not one of these 8 comes up.
Yeah, like what's your
have at
favorite
it,
color?
Right? Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when one of these subjects now becomes part of the project, does that not trip a switch that, the teacher, Lisa, should have probably said, sexual orientation is a tricky subject. Why don't I look at this a little bit more before we start asking 12-year-olds whether they're gay or not? Probably should have dawned on someone.
And then
So I
at
think we
what
need to
age
put
is the if this will work, what is the appropriate age?
according to this, is under 18.
Under 18.
Yes, that's what it said. Because the kids because the students who are 18 years of age or older may opt out of such surveys, analyses, or
Yeah,
evaluations.
just as the
Right.
parents have the.
Right.
And then at the bottom it has where the parents or guardians or eligible students who believe their rights have been violated may file a complaint. My concern with this was that part, and it's probably something to ask Kim about. If the parents are supposed to have a right to see a survey ahead of time, can they then, are we then legally liable if they don't? Like, is there truly a loophole for student surveys that protects the district?
That's what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah.
That is the crux
That's kind
of
of like,
this
yeah.
question as well. And I that's why I found this piece.
Yeah.
I found it online. I'm like, let me find out what is exactly the law. I think we have to spend more time on this, or what I would suggest is, what is the language that you're thinking of putting it
So,
in, and can we run
yeah.
that by Kim? Maybe
We
that's
certainly,
probably a
we
good
certainly
idea.
can. Let's talk about that. So, the first paragraph, the second paragraph talks about gathering data. Where does it say?
What is it, IHMA or ILD?
ILD.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so in this policy, surveys, evaluations for methods of gathering data for research purposes.
Mhm.
I would like to change research purposes to any purpose. Because you could call anything research and then get around having to tell parents anything.
And you know, Mike, I apologize. Is it underneath all of the 8 here?
ILD,
no, it's-
the first paragraph.
It's the first paragraph.
so-
Yeah, sorry, first paragraph. So, any purpose, and I would also like to say, some kind of language regardless of who or what entity is asking the question or sending the survey. So I want this to cover everybody.
So like regardless of who is conducting the survey?
Yep. The second paragraph there says, without prior written consent of the student's parent, guardian, no student shall be required as part of any program to submit to any survey. When I read that, it sounds like nobody's going to be required to answer the survey,
Right.
but they certainly might receive it.
Right.
Mhm.
So I would like to change that to some language that says that before it's sent, the parents will be given the information.
So in other words, no student shall be sent. No.
Yeah, so instead of shall be required to submit, shall be sent to any survey without parents being notified.
And are you talking about a blanket not to be sent any survey?
If it falls under these 8 categories.
Okay. Here's another question. From what I was reading from here,
Mhm.
does that include a survey from anyone? A survey from...
If it comes through the school. Through the school meaning through the class, through a teacher, through a student. If a student just... This is probably the gray area that we're going to have.
It is a great
If a student
area.
just says, you know what, I wonder how my classmates feel about X, and they send a survey out through their email,
Yeah.
that's probably going to fall under whatever email use or technology use policies we might have. That doesn't necessarily fall under this because it's not coming through a class or through a school or something. This, from what I understand, this is anything coming from the school. And I would argue that if it's coming as part of a class project, that's through the school.
I think you're right. It's the coming... It's,
Like if a student's on the bus, it says, raise your hand if you think whatever.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to fit, right? But if it's spending time in a classroom thinking up or learning about research procedures or whatever any of these topics are, then that would fall under this.
Okay. I am with you.
So I know you don't want to stifle the student's speech unnecessarily.
I don't, but also too, I want to make sure that what does the law say around it's exactly what you said. What is the line? What is the place where?
Yeah.
Look
So
at a
there's-
couple
there's-
things
there's-
in here.
Yeah, there's the law where
Yep.
Kim has spoken on.
Yep.
And then there's what do we want as a district. We don't want to focus on asking kids. I don't understand the infatuation with understanding what a kid's sexuality is. Teach them how to read. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, or anything else. Teach your kid how to read and how to do math. This subject doesn't apply. So there's the law, and then there's what do we want to do as a district.
Okay. I'm going to point out a couple things just to think about for reference in this that I highlighted, just like to think about for a moment. And then to your point, I think part of this too is what I've talked a lot about just with the different school committee members and other folks as well. Where do we how do I balance between our personal beliefs and looking at all of our students? So while that may be how you feel, and I understand that, or you feel a certain way and I feel a certain way, we have to make sure we're just protecting everyone. But and with what you're trying to, like, where is the fine
Well, I'm thinking
lines
the
we're trying to
protection
figure
here, Carol, is what if a student answers this survey a particular way?
Mm-hmm.
The question is, are you a member of the LGBT community?
Yeah.
So let's say a student answers yes, and then there's an event that comes up, something happens later on, and that information is now stored somewhere, right? This person does identify as this. And, I don't know, something happens involving that student. I'll just use an example. They get a bad grade from a particular teacher, whoever it might be. Now that you know the student's answer to this survey question, and let's say you know personally the philosophy or the ideas or the political leanings or whatever it is of the teacher, you can't for 100% certainty say that if the kid complains about, I don't think I should have got this bad grade, you're just giving me this bad grade because I answered a survey this way and not that way, and you and I disagree on this. That's what we're trying to protect.
Yeah. And also, too,
regardless of which way the student answers the survey and which way the teacher, and this is just a hypothetical example, but this is why you don't go around asking these types of questions, to avoid any perception that there might be some kind of bias going on here.
it sounds like perhaps your concern too might be the violating of the confidentiality of the student who responded to that survey.
Certainly, yeah.
If it's an anonymous survey, we practically wouldn't know who responded that way, especially as you're collecting the data. I don't think they can. Is there something also to include in the policy that whatever is asked of any student, whether they have a dog, I don't know, I'm looking at you, that these have to be anonymous, that there's no way, like, we have to protect all students from whatever they want to share privately through the survey. Is that the way that we should not know who that is? You know what I mean?
If you can do it, I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not
I
an
think
IT
that's,
expert.
Yeah, that's
well,
a
I
good
think
question,
that's a
another good
call
question,
question
though.
too. That's why I
Yeah.
say this is a really complicated one.
Well, see, and what my struggle with this is, first of all, I agree with Mike. I think it's a can of worms, but I think of what matters to different people, what matters and what doesn't. It changes person to person, and if we don't stick to what this list is, I'm just looking at religious practices affiliations. Who's to say that someone's not going to send something out? Perhaps religion is what guides their life, or, like it's.
Do you think this picture fairly represents Muhammad? To be a outrage.
So it's like
the newspaper.
It's just it's like one of the. I just feel like it's a really slippery slope, and I feel like in a time when everybody is so volatile about everything. It was the paragraph that says that a parent guardian may inspect upon request a survey created by a third party before the survey is administered or distributed to the student, and then the following up with the filing a complaint. I mean, we're not following that if it falls into one, like, we didn't make these 8 categories.
Yeah, that's the other thing we need to remember here. We're not preventing anyone from doing anything. We're simply saying, if you're going to do it around this subject,
Right.
you need to let the parents know. We're not preventing you from doing it. Like, this survey could have gone out completely as is, had there simply been a notification to parents. Hey, parents, we're going to do it. This is what we're going to do. So it's not preventing anyone from
Yeah, if
doing
you have any
anything.
questions, because that's actually, if you think about it, if I'm remembering, I don't know if it's changed, in 5th grade when they did the sexuality piece.
Right.
It goes home, it says if you want to see the videos or if you want to see the curriculum prior to, and then the parents signed off on it, or I don't know, do we have to sign off on it, or is it just a notification? I can't remember now. Like, if you have issue, you can let us know.
I think we had to sign off. Don't hold me to that. I'd
Yeah,
have to check
I know.
on
I
that
think it
one.
was like that when my kids were younger, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing. So we're not preventing you from doing
Right.
it. We're just saying, if you're going to do it around one of these 8 topics, these 8 topics include protected classes, they include confidentiality, they include sensitive subjects. if you're gonna do this for a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 17-year-old, simply let the parents know beforehand.
I guess maybe the question to Kim would be, is an email notifying them that there will be a survey sent out, and if they, want to see the survey, or if they object to it, they can respond? Or is it one of those things where it has to be you need to give permission in order for your child? I guess that's where...
Is it part of the policy, or is it a practice in addition to the policy? Like, if the policy is this, right?
Yeah.
Then is it become a practice that we have when surveys, or when that civics, those projects start sending things out, parents are notified that various surveys will be going out, and so that they can have a chance to look at them too? Is that what you're...
that's what
I think that's what we're trying to...
Yeah, it's just that
grapple with
they know
language.
that their child's going to be... And I don't know if we would if we would say because it's this, or if it would be a blanket state. I don't know.
Right.
I'm not sure. Like, do you want to be aware of surveys that will be sent to your students, or not really sure. What do you think, Mike?
I tried to do a little... Last week was crazy, but I tried to look a little bit to see if I saw other districts and what they were doing.
Yeah.
If there was any language. I just looked at like 2 of them. I didn't get to pursue it further. I was hoping I would be able to see to get a sense, just to find language around what others were doing. Would you be willing to give me a little bit more time to try to look into that? I think we're looking for language to reflect what you're considering.
Yeah, I mean, I have proposed language, but definitely...
Yes, but I'd love to see what other districts have, if they've addressed it or how they've addressed it, and also, I think given the language...
But I think in the meantime, Carol, you need to let your team know not to do this again, without thinking about it a little bit further, because that's really what's driving this. Is that?
Yeah, and I think that I thought that the principal did speak with them, and they did set up procedures and policies.
Yeah, but it was after the fact.
Protocols. It was after the fact,
Yeah.
Mike. Absolutely. And I was glad that happened, so I think we can even look at that too, and I don't know if you saw what they put in place.
Yes.
But we can look at it again and say, is this satisfactory? I think that it was, but you're right, it was after the fact. As these things are coming up more and more, I think that I don't want to say it's always been done that way, but probably...
It's all about transparency, right?
It is, and like you said, these are all things that are coming up now that may have not come up, all of it, in the past.
Yeah.
Whether it's the issue at hand or the discussion at hand, and how that's approached. So I think we just have to I think we definitely have to do a better job with procedures and protocols around things.
The 3 other changes that I want to make to this: skip the 1 through 8 for now.
Okay.
Go to that next paragraph.
Yep.
It starts with all instructional materials.
Yep.
It says it shall be available upon request.
Yep.
For inspection. And then the next, is it 2 paragraphs down? No, where is it? Yeah, it's the next paragraph. It says parent guardian may inspect. I'd like to just take this out of the optional and just move it into will be sent materials before, because the final paragraph, the second to final paragraph, where it talks about parents will have the opportunity to opt out. It says parents shall have the opportunity to opt their child out of participation. I'd like to change that to by default, everyone is opted out unless the parents decide to opt in once they've been provided all this. So the policy says if you're going to do anything on these 8 criteria, simply send it out to parents beforehand, and if they want to participate, they can.
And I'm just clarifying, so if any of these 8 topics, parents would have a chance initially, let's say for this program, like the civics project, right?
Mm-hmm.
The civics project's taking place, parents can, you're considering the parents would be opted out and have to say, yes, I give permission for my child to take...
Not from the civics project. No, not from the civics project. But if the civics project develops anything like this that is asking for children to provide their answer for number 1 through 8, then yes, then you have to tell the parents beforehand. If it doesn't fall under number 1 through 8, that doesn't apply. That's how I read it.
I envision it. I envision perhaps more information going out. I'm not sure what's being sent right now with the civics project. There is definitely a statement from DESE about what it should do. It's supposed to, it does say something to the effect of, this is supposed to be things that kind of stir up discussion. So they're advocating for the students to kind of dig into sensitive topics. But I think that has to be perhaps more transparent to parents, and this may include topics around any of these 8 areas. If you have an issue with any of those 8 areas as a parent, then they could notify the teacher, right? Or of that. Is that what you're thinking?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. We don't know yet, but it's something like that.
Like, I'm just thinking of the senior year, I'm thinking Mr. Doherty's class, Rebecca was in there. They all read like 4 different books, and then they came up with the survey that they sent out was, if you could know the date of your death and the manner by which you are going to die, would you want to know? It was not.
Oh, that was it must be an exhibition.
It was it was their
Yeah,
exhibition,
yeah.
and so that was the question that they sent out, which doesn't fall under any of these here. So that wouldn't be a survey that would need to be run by anyone, correct?
I don't think so, yeah.
Because it doesn't pertain
Unless
to.
you include death under religious practices or beliefs, but I don't know, that's probably a stretch.
Yeah.
So I think it's only when they fall underneath because they're the protected because they're the legally protected classes. Is the reason for, sending it out and having parents.
What age were those kids that were asked that question?
They were in high school.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, they were the 6th graders.
No.
Yeah. So that's that, and then in regard to the number 1 through 8, my final comment here. It's funny, each one of these is somewhat detailed with what they want to include, except for number 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's very short. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but I would like to clarify what we believe that to mean. And this is up for debate, what everybody thinks it means, but I would think the survey we're talking about now falls under that. But I can certainly see how someone could read that and interpret it very literally and argue that the survey doesn't fall under that based on the way the questions were asked.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to add language in there just to say, for clarity's sake or to avoid any doubt, in our district, this includes questions concerning orientation, gender, preferred gender, or anything related to student sexuality, which would, I think, cover everything under that topic, but maybe I'm missing something.
The only thing, if that's the only thing is, I don't know if we can add the language into this because is it unlawful to do that? Like, is to change that language?
This
that it
specific
presents?
no, I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. We have specific languages that say you're not allowed to discriminate based on sexual orientation, gender, or anything like that.
Mm.
So all this does is take that language and put it here, is you're not allowed to question students about their sexual orientation. or
Unless the
gender.
parents give permission.
Yeah, I mean, I am having a little bit of a struggle trying to understand why the schools so desperately want this information. I am struggling with that for a 12-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
I am struggling with that, Carol. Believe what you want to believe, do what you want to do. I don't know why the school is so focused on it. I don't know why we can't put that aside and just
But
teach.
that one came from like an 11th grade student, so it was something
Yeah.
that mattered to that 11th grade student.
And I would,
It came from an 11th grade student after it was reviewed by the teacher, reviewed by Lisa, and approved by Lisa, and sort of promoted by Lisa. So,
initially it wasn't though. I mean, sent out to the middle school.
no,
students.
when we brought this up, we were
Yeah,
told
yeah.
that Lisa looked at this before it went out and was okay with it.
After the fact, she didn't know about it before. That's what I mean. Initially,
So the teacher didn't know about it, and Lisa didn't know about it before it went out?
Lisa didn't know about it. I
The
don't
teacher
know about.
did, though.
I don't know about the teacher. I don't know, but Lisa did not. That's why she acted.
I thought when she talked to us in the meeting the other day, she said that she reviewed this and was okay with it.
right after she talked with the teacher. And
So that was
got
after it
mentioned.
went out, not
Yes,
before.
yes,
It
yep.
sounded like she meant she
Yeah.
reviewed it beforehand,
Yeah,
right?
no,
Either
she
way.
didn't.
So I think that would just clear it up, because all these others, the 1 through 3, 5 through 7, 4 through 7, they all sort of describe exactly what they're talking about, except for this one, which I found to be a little weird, but.
Yeah.
But those are changes. If you want, I can add them in, and then we can send it off to Kim and see what she thinks.
That would be great. That would be
Yeah.
hugely helpful. And as I said,
Alright.
I can do some more research and just look and see if I find anything on this other districts who may have worked on something like this. I don't think it's something we can fix right the second, like make it all solid. I think we have to do some more work with it.
That shouldn't take too long. The next item, IHMA, it ties in with this.
Yep.
I know this is specific to curriculum, but I guess my question was around that term curriculum. This is a civics project. I'm assuming this class and the civics project is part of the curriculum.
The civics project is an entity unto itself. If it's termed
Yeah.
as curriculum, it's the guidelines that DESE sets up for doing a civics
Yeah.
project. Like what
So I think that's, again, when it comes to parent notification, I guess that's what creates the confusion, because most people who aren't involved in DESE and education would probably think, well, this came from the school, so that's part of the curriculum. But you're saying that's not the case. So I wonder if we shouldn't clarify what we mean by curriculum there, so everybody understands what we're talking about.
So is that the first paragraph in relation to curriculum?
Yeah. You know what I mean? Because we have this policy
Right. This would be
specifically
more-
to sex education, because that is such a sensitive topic,
Right.
especially age dependent.
This would be more like the health.
Yeah, for the
curriculum.
health.
I think this is specifically why we were looking at this.
Yeah.
It is specifically
initially.
to the health, but I mean, this first paragraph here, right, says this has adopted this policy on the rights of parents and guardians of students in relation to curriculum that involves human sexual education or human sexuality issues. So the question there is curriculum. So what does curriculum mean? So a parent who sees this might think, well, you're supposed to notify me on any curriculum that involves sexual education or includes human sexuality issues, which I would assume, are you a member of LGBT, is a human sexuality issue or a topic.
Mm-hmm.
So their question would be, why didn't I get notified about
Right,
this?
not generated by the teacher or discussions in the class. It's student generated.
Well, see, that's where we're going to disagree, because it is student generated, sanctioned, supported, and encouraged by the school.
to
by the
allow the
teacher.
discussion to take place, or
Or is what you're saying, there's this class and this student took it upon themselves to decide, I'm going to write these survey questions and send it out without talking to the teacher about it?
because I don't know what transpired that way, but I could say that was a topic that particular student wanted to explore as part of their civics
Sure.
project. So there's a and
Wouldn't
that
those
runs
topics
the
always
whole-
be discussed with your teacher or your advisor or somebody as you start to develop your project? Wouldn't you
It
discuss
should
that?
be, because
Yeah.
that person holds as more of the facilitator of the project versus the teacher.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're not going
Of
to
the
be
curriculum.
teaching the details of this topic,
right.
but they are going to say, run your topic by me. Let me see if you're going in the right direction, or do you need some guidance, or what should you do on that, or something like that, right? I can understand that they're not getting into the details of whatever their particular topic is, but they certainly would know what the topic is.
I think this, as I understand the civics project, really is more about the process. Like how do you do the who would be people you'd reach out to?
Yeah.
More of the guidelines for that process rather than guidelines around the specific topic. There's no particular guidelines really around the specific topic.
And so I think, again, where the issue is if the student wanted to do that topic for their project and focus their project on them, their beliefs, their situation, that's probably perfectly fine. Doesn't need to get any sort of permission or sign off or anything. It's the act of including other kids, I think, that is the trigger. You know? Because as a
understand.
student, you can do a project on whatever they want, you
Yeah,
know.
right,
And
right.
if it's, I think this about this topic, or here's some research I found online about this topic, or here's what national statistics are, or national polling says, or this is the way something's
That's right.
going. It's when it involves other students under our jurisdiction that are sort of the subjects of the study that I think it becomes the issue,
Okay,
you know?
I understand you. So it's not the top, it's not like we're
It's not the
censoring
topic, it's
students'
the way that it was
topic.
done.
It's do we it's really, I think it comes back to the survey. And-
Yeah,
Right.
Okay.
but here, the question is, everyone knows that if your curriculum involves sexual education or human sexuality issues, you're supposed to follow this policy. I guess the question here is they didn't think that this particular project fell under this. So I would like to see if we can, sort of define what we mean when we say, if your curriculum includes this, then you need to follow this policy. So it could say, any instructional materials, any lessons, anything that might come up. If a random conversation comes up in class, there's no way to do that, but this survey should certainly have fallen under this, in my opinion. So I don't know if curriculum is the correct word, if we should expand on it, what we should do, but I think we should clarify it. So I'll take that one too. We'll send that through. And then the others are from the December update letter. There were several policies out there that they had, that
Yeah.
WSC had out there.
Yeah.
These are all the new ones. The others were amendments and adjustments that I thought that we could just each take a handful,
Yep.
Lori, and
Yep.
see what the changes were. But these are new ones, mostly around technology.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
wanted to tell you, I gave these to Paul, and he
That's
gave
what
a
I was
little
gonna
bit of
ask you,
feedback.
yeah.
He just wrote some notes on there to look. I didn't include those in yours. He just handed them to me
Okay.
Friday, and I said we could look as we look at these together.
Sure.
Hang on. Tell me which one you want to take.
Now let's go down the list.
Okay.
EHAA.
So what he said to me is the one word he was questioning was like, and it was oddly placed. I don't understand it myself.
Mhm.
The protection of sensitive data and technology vital, so on. The word collaboration. He says, how do we define what does collaboration look like? He just said, what does it look like, and what would that affect? What would we do for district security around collaboration? Like, how do you capture that?
Is that like a Zoom call or something?
I don't know, right? It doesn't feel like it, but I mean, unless we're going to be more specific about that.
Mhm.
He said he thought it was very broad, the first paragraph, and he said would recommend getting more sample policies. He agrees with the premise of the policy, but these are very vague terms: information collaboration. How would you develop and maintain such a wide-reaching term as that? How would we provide security around that, I guess? These are just top things he's brought up as he's read
Mhm.
through them from that perspective. So, and he also pointed out, well, this is, in the third paragraph, the committee directs the superintendent to develop and maintain an effective district data protection system of procedures for the protection of sensitive district information. Okay, such procedures should protect the that availability and integrity of district information.
Mhm.
Does that fall back under all of these things? I don't know how I would.
So we're
maintain-
talking about sensitive data.
Yeah.
So that can be all sorts of things, but names, birth dates, social
Yeah,
security numbers,
which is what we do
things like
anyway.
that,
Yeah,
employees'
yeah.
data, student data.
But what is right?
Well, like collaboration. So let's say let's say you're having a conference call and you're discussing hiring someone. You might not put the personal data of that person. Like, let's say you're helping someone set up their HR profile or something. I don't know if that's what you do or not, but you would have their social security number, their tax information, their address, their phone number, stuff like that. You wouldn't want to just send that unless it was protected. Is that what we're talking about, maybe?
What do you think?
Do you want me to email our MASC person?
Lori,
and
that would
ask?
be helpful, right?
Yeah. It's,
Anything that's clear
Like,
is,
I'll ask her
is
to expound on it.
helpful. Okay.
I forget what her name is.
It's
She took over for Dorothy.
At a higher level, I think it's basically making sure that anything you
That
have
Dorothy
on a
retired.
piece of technology is protected in some way, like passwords, encryption, whatever
Mhm.
it might be, right?
So it was collaboration. What was the other one that he,
The other one he went about is information in that first paragraph.
in that first paragraph? Okay. All right.
That's his
Yeah.
perspective on
No.
it.
All right.
Okay, that would be helpful.
EHP.
Sometimes in their attempt to be broad and encompass so many
Yeah.
so many areas, they get vaguer. The clearer you go, the better, I think it is. Data and records retention, where it says X in the first paragraph, he said, suggest using the title Executive Secretary to Superintendent. That's, the custodian of public records is actually Nicole, and was Christie before that, so it'd be okay to put that in there.
Yes.
So what did you say it was?
The executive secretary to the
Executive
Or
superintendent.
executive assistant to the
Assistant.
superintendent. I think that's the only one.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's easy enough.
So we can probably put that forward then to get approved.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
That's a
right.
good one.
So to first read.
Are you going to mark that up, or do you want me to do it for
I'm
you?
marking it up right now.
Okay.
But Nicole, can we add this one to the first read for tomorrow? And then we can vote on it in May. Because it's pretty straightforward and simple.
Do we have to do a revised agenda?
We should have them, I think we had them in there.
Are they? Oh, okay.
I don't have no, we don't have those in there. We should have something from the policy subcommittee.
We have policy subcommittee, so it's kind of whatever he brings up.
Yeah, so if you bring it up.
Can we bring it up as a first read?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep, and we'll put it in that way.
I can put it, so we want me to put
Why
that
don't you put it in the
drive.
drive, though?
Yeah.
That's what we'll do, okay. Okay, I'm sorry, use of technology in school.
Yeah.
In that one, with the director of technology, he's actually the technology coordinator. That's just language change, or title change. And then the third paragraph, by the district code of conduct is actually the district student handbook. And then the last one, failure to abide the district policies, when it says met with consequences, will be dealt with as prescribed in the student handbook. That makes sense.
All right, we'll do the same thing.
Yep. We'll add that one for tomorrow as well. Nicole? Okay.
J-I-C-J.
Yep. Community use of digital resources, I think, is the next one.
Mhm.
Same thing, the director of technology changed that one to the technology coordinator. So where it says all guests will be prompted to and must accept the district's digital use form before accessing the district network, he wrote, our wireless is set up this way. So
Okay.
do we still leave that in there, or?
Yeah,
If
just
it's
in,
set up that way, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think we should just in case someone were to say, why do we do this? Now we know,
Yeah.
like it's
Oh,
it's a
okay.
policy.
All right, that's all.
Yeah,
All right. that's
just
cool.
protects us, I think.
Yeah, these are the kinds of things I've asked you this year. Do you put these in here,
Yeah.
or do you?
I mean, we didn't have, I looked and we don't have these. So
I did
they're-
too.
they're
No,
new.
we don't,
They are
right,
new.
right.
From-
Yeah.
They're new from MASC, so
Right.
anytime something's new,
Okay.
keep it or not keep it.
All
So
right.
we're gonna do that one as the
We'll do-
first read
yeah,
as well.
let's do that one too.
Great.
First reads only, so we're not making decisions on them.
This was interesting. So, the district website and social media. So we don't have a social media page. So
Yeah.
he had suggested taking out of there. And at this point in the year, honestly, I would be very happy to remove social media. I will never open a Facebook page, I promise you, in my tenure, ever.
Wise.
Yeah, I will, the district website's good enough, right? And we're all good.
So take out.
I would ask, unless you, I mean, I don't want to I'm not going to authorize social media,
So yeah, so we don't have any, I mean, maybe in the event that ever changed and there was a social media site,
Mm.
this would be good language to have around it. So if you don't have a site, it's not telling you you have to have a site.
Okay.
It's just saying, if you do have a site, here's what you gotta keep in mind.
Oh, yeah, and actually this unauthorized use of district or school name is prohibited.
Well, that would help everybody out online,
Right.
thinking that those pages are official school
I like
pages.
that.
That frustrates me beyond anything. But it said it on this page. Yeah, it says a lot of things on there, right?
Right. And if you want to just leave it in just for the future, and maybe someday when that
I think so, because
changes,
then if it ever
that's
comes
fine.
up, and, it's already there. And
Yeah, we just need to change that XXX to the BBRSD, or
Yeah.
XX, just two X's.
Maybe BBRSD, yep. So that's probably, and school social media accounts as authorized, which I'll never authorize.
Yeah, as
on.
authorized,
I think
so-
maybe that's what I'm telling both of you. I would-
Yeah, and
I just
I support you with
Yeah.
that, yeah.
do that.
that's probably
Uh-huh.
the wise move.
Yep.
Yeah.
Instead, we'll just put a sign at BMS, right? Digital sign. That's how people will know, right?
Okay. That's great.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
we're good. Nicole, are
and
you
then-
all set with that? Do you have
The
everything you need?
last one, First Read also?
Yeah.
Yes.
First read, yep.
Yep. KDB, CD.
Can we
And then-
just go over those again, Mike? I just
Mhm.
want to make sure she has all
Yep.
of those.
So I think there's 3, right? So it would be
4.
4, yeah. EHB,
Okay.
JICJ,
Okay.
KDC, and KDCB.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, good.
And then
Okay.
Lori, there were others on that update from
Yep.
December. I was thinking we'd just split them up half and half.
Okay.
Take the first half, I'll take the second half. All the ones that just say change. Some of them I think are simple as change.
Is it the December one? Because I think you covered most of them. I think we covered most of them.
There's a
like
few out there with
nutrition
changes.
and, okay. Oh, the changes, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna put that over here so it goes
But
with.
yeah, and then next time we'll get the March update, maybe.
Yeah. Mm. So many updates. All right, so, and then we have the,
Yeah, these are 3 that Carol, you had.
Yeah, I did.
These, right?
Let's go to let's just do the attendance ones first. That's
Okay.
JE and JH, both are in your
Mhm.
folder. The JH, student absences and excuses, seems to roll over into the attendance policy itself. This is really old. If you look back, I think it's 2014. The other one was updated, and it seems to have most of, if not all of, the things that are talked about in, this was 2020,
Mhm.
in here. It's almost like we could just remove this policy.
JH?
Right, because what happened, and the reason this unfolded is the principals typically send out the letters that they're required to send out about the number of absences, so they take care of it in their buildings. They do what they need to. But one policy was countering the other policy in the terms of policy. So when one principal would say, well, the policy says this, the parents say, but I just read the policy and it says that. Because one says 3 and one says 5, I think, or
Yeah.
4.
I actually noted places where they, yes,
Yeah.
I agree with you.
But we're following JE. We're not
Right.
following
Right.
JH. So at the risk of confusion and the fact that it's redundant, really, can we remove JH?
So, one of the things that I would agree with you, I think that I would almost want to compare the two,
Yep.
but I feel like it is, and some things on here don't really, I think this is more current. I noticed for D on the first page, it says all notes will be given to the main office. So then I wrote, can it be an electronic note? Like, could you email? But then I noticed on page 2, when you see dismissals, under A, 4 for dismissals, all dismissal notes must be handed in before the start of the school day. Each note must contain the parent's signature, reason for dismissal. I'm almost wondering if that should be, do they want notes with parent signatures? Because, I'll be honest with you, I have Google. My kids have Google. They can go on my computer and send out an email, no problem.
Yeah.
Don't
So-
maybe the high school's different, but don't we have an online portal
We,
to do that?
dismissal
we?
manager, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
So
realize
maybe
that.
even since 2020,
Maybe
this is
add-
antiquated because
Yeah.
they added that
Is that for all
a couple
schools?
years ago. I know the elementaries, but I don't think it is for
Tohoto?
Tohoto. No, they wanted to get it, but they don't have it yet. But you're right. That should be up. That, like, within this policy, we should probably look and make sure we
And
can
make sure that
update some
everything's,
things.
yeah.
That
Yeah,
I can.
So there's two things here, remove one and update the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, so remove JH.
So let's do this, if you're comfortable with it. I would like to work on this with the principals and
Yeah.
give recommendations to the subcommittee.
I think that would be great.
Because they're the ones really monitoring all
Well,
of this.
yeah, and they know.
And the letters
yes.
and all of those
Mhm.
things, so.
So why don't we do this?
Then the other thing I wanted to just check on is on number 8, second paragraph on the bottom. If the parent cannot be reached, we will then notify the chief of police of the town of residence to investigate further. I don't think that happens. I'm not necessarily opposed to it not happening because there are times when someone's sick, you're tending to them, you're not like the last thing you want is the chief of police showing up at your house.
Right.
But I was wondering if we don't do that, should that be in there?
That's a little aggressive, no?
Well, that's what I thought too. I understand it's a safety issue. The
Why-
idea
Yeah.
is, what if the child was abducted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that pertains to the elementary school. I can remember the history in another district. We were missing a child, and they were hiding in the school, and they couldn't find them. But that child, the parents sent them in. Somehow, in the course of them coming in their classroom, they were missing in action. So nobody could
Yeah.
find them. And there all kinds of alerts went out. I think just as a matter of course, if that's the case, particularly in elementary level, like immediately everybody's
Yeah, could you
in motion.
maybe ask the
Yeah, is
admins
that being done?
in the elementary school about, because to me it's more of a I suppose it's a safety issue anyway, but
Keep the kids
it's
home tomorrow
total-
and test it.
How long does it take before we realize the student's absent?
Well, and do they really, like, I mean, I can just imagine how many, I think parents are busy, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't enforce it. If we're gonna enforce it, we enforce it. I'm just thinking, either we do or we don't, and we should abide by whatever the policy is. I'd be curious to know what the the nurses, I believe they're the ones that get the attendance lists. If what they're doing, how they, basically what they're doing.
Okay. Yeah, those are great questions.
So I was just thinking about how many times, I've great intentions and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see I think the elementaries are pretty clear, but I'm not sure how the high school handles
Right.
that. I know they call home right away, but then what?
Yeah, then what, right.
Okay. It'd be good for them to know that too.
So why don't we do this for JH? We'll do that as a first read as well, to simply remove it and just include JE with it, just so they can have it to take a look at. Again, first read, not making any decisions on it tomorrow, but so that they can have it and we can do it in May.
I think
without
that's a
waiting
good
for
idea,
June.
yep.
And I'll put a note in here for the
Well, and I
admin
think
team.
the other thing too, Mike, is that maybe if they have any suggestions, it's a first read.
Yeah.
If they feel if there's anything that needs to be put in here, if they want to, let you
Yeah,
know,
just
but
not
that's the policy.
to go a whole nother month without.
I agree, 'cause it's important.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great. Okay. Good, thank you.
Excellent.
All right.
All right. Would you like Sally to come in just to speak to the wellness policy, or do you want to look at?
I'll be honest, I haven't read it yet, so I
Okay.
don't even know. It's pretty long.
So,
Just as a quick, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, I was just gonna say,
This is on for tomorrow, right? Already?
It is on,
Yeah.
yes. She's gonna introduce it. Well, I think she spoke of it before, but she was just wanted to present it. It was a tremendous effort, and it
Oh,
really was
it's
comprehensive. They
it's
did a
wonderful.
fabulous job.
I read.
this group.
I actually. It's rare that you enjoy reading something. It was very well put together. It was just really interesting, and the way that they wrote it was very user friendly. I just had a question on page 3. It says morning bus routes will be scheduled to allow students to arrive at school in time to eat breakfast. And I wondered if that was even possible, if that's contractual, because it says they'll be given 20 minutes.
I think they're doing more of a grab and go kind of breakfast right now. The kids will be able to get breakfast, but they're not going to have the 20 minutes that the buses are
Right,
arriving
so I was just
anymore.
concerned about putting this in any kind of policy.
Well, yeah, if you put that in there, Carol, you're gonna have to.
Yeah,
do it.
you have to do
Yep.
it. So that was one of my concerns.
That's a
And then
great
right
one.
underneath that, it says tutoring, club, or organizational meetings will not be scheduled during lunch periods unless students are allowed to consume lunch during meetings, which I think we already do that, so that's,
Yep.
and then, so that was just my one concern was the morning bus routes, because if it's
That's
a
never gonna
policy and we're
happen.
gonna do, yeah, exactly. I remembered our last contract negotiation, so that's why I wanted to make sure we weren't stepping on toes inadvertently. And then on page 5, the paragraph right above staff training, it says, given concerns about student exposure to marketing, district schools will no longer participate in incentive or fundraising programs that promote foods that do not meet smart snack programs. Parent-teacher associations are asked to research new fundraising. So all I could think of was every single year we buy from the Tohoto Booster Club. They do the braids, the bread braids,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
do the cookie doughs. I think it's big money. That would no longer be allowed given this policy, correct?
Is smart snack programs defined in here?
Yes, it is. It's ones that they, where is it? It's ones that they say meet, I believe it's the state. Where is it? Trying to find, let's see.
So smart snack has something to do with marketing of food?
It has to do with it being healthy for you. Like they
Okay.
basically don't want Doritos and
Sure.
things like that. So I was.
It starts off by saying concerns about marketing exposure.
And I agree. I don't.
Because we have specific policies around fundraising and around
Mhm.
marketing.
So I just wanted to kind of alert people to that. And then the last thing that I noted was on page 9, underneath nursing services. It says requirements for physical examinations and immunizations are enforced according to the Department of Public Health guidelines. My question about that is, what are we doing with students that we get that do come without immunization records in physical examinations? Because I believe at some point our students are not allowed to go to school if they don't have, or like there's some sort of
Their
penalty, right?
vaccinations, right?
Vaccines, yeah.
So is this apply to all students? Because I mean, if it's a rule, it's a rule. I'm just curious about, and that might be a question for Kim.
Are there students you let in that don't have this?
I think there are, what's the word I'm looking for? If you have a religious if you have
Yeah,
a
but
reason not to.
I'm sure that's included in the Department of Public Health guidelines.
Right.
There's exemptions, right?
Right, the exemptions, right.
I'm just thinking of people that may have come to this country and did not come with medical records. That's what I was
Oh
thinking.
yeah, what happens then?
Right. So,
That's also a Lisa question. I think Lisa Lamoureux would be able to answer
Right.
that too, so.
right. So just something to put on the radar. But I thought it was phenomenal. I can understand why. I mean, the amount of thought that went into it. There were several places that I highlighted and put smiley faces just because I just thought it was really well done.
Just writing it down.
So, was this cross-referenced with any of the student handbooks or any of the other books? Because, like, talking about no tobacco, okay. I'm sure that's in a handbook somewhere, right?
Mhm.
So it's all in line with every other document that we have, or do we need to make other updates, or what is going on?
That's what I would want to ask, if
And
they
it
had
says-
looked at all of those.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Can you
reference
grab
to
her
zero
copies?
tolerance policies, so what does that mean, zero tolerance?
Like, I'm just gonna have, she can, Sally can speak to the
Yeah.
questions you're asking because of the whole group that was together, so she has a.
Okay.
I have to leave in 10 minutes. I
Yeah,
apologize.
we're overtime. My fault. My 90-year-old neighbor's fault.
Hi
Because
there.
you're so chivalrous.
Couple quick questions
Sure.
that have come up.
Sure.
Or do you want to mention those to Sally so she can
Yeah, so
respond?
Sally,
Mhm.
when I was looking at this, I wasn't sure if this was actually going to be possible contractually.
Okay, they already do have time to eat the breakfast.
They do?
Yeah, because we already serve it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it works out.
It works out, so
Yeah.
there's not anything no contractual issues?
Mhm.
Okay. And then Oh, no, I liked that.
Okay.
And then the other question that I had was, so the Booster Club they sell like cookie dough and the braids.
Yep.
Would they no longer be allowed to sell that?
You can do it a half an hour after school gets out.
Okay.
So anything that's at night or after Atanta,
Yep.
for instance, 2:45.
Then it'd
It's
be
fine.
okay.
Yep. Mhm.
Because I was just thinking, I know it's such a money raiser for
Yeah.
them. Not that I'm saying
Yeah.
we should keep it just because it's a money raiser.
And the
but
same
I-
with clubs or whatever. They can do those kinds of things. They just
that's true.
have to do it after
school. That makes
30
sense.
minutes.
Was that the fundraising one?
Right.
Yes, that was my fundraising question. Oh, and then I just put in
So
for
hold on. Let's,
Yeah.
Sure.
So it says that the schools will no longer participate in fundraising programs.
I can clarify that if it needs it. It's more for like during the day when they do fundraisers, like a cafe for a cause or something like that.
oh, what
Oh,
page
so
is
these
that?
aren't
on?
the things where people are
So
going around selling boxes of M&Ms or anything. like
right,
that.
that kind of thing can take place
After school.
school, right? But we just can't have the kids doing fundraisers that involve food. The only way you can do it involving food is if you purchase the food products directly from the kitchen, basically.
Mhm.
You're not
'Cause they've
supposed
already vetted.
Yeah, and you're
Yeah.
not supposed to be competing with them.
What are the smart snacks? Do they have to have a certain nutritional value? Like they talk a lot about that.
Yeah, there's a list. I think there's a link in there somewhere to that, probably at the end.
Oh, okay.
And it's something that it's a list it's like a federal list of
Mhm.
all the snacks that are considered smart snacks that meet all their
Good.
compliance regulations.
This is really well done.
Thank you.
It was really-
We had a great opportunity. We were able to take
It's a good
course.
group.
Yeah, and Lisa Mayer and I took a course at Framingham State. Like they offered it to us for $25.
That's wonderful.
And we were able to take it and it basically walked us through the whole process of creating this.
That's great.
And the coaches there also are associated with DESE. So after we finished it, because they had a whole assessment tool that they let us use to go through the whole thing, and after they assessed it, they also took it and shared it with a few other people just to make sure that everything that's supposed to be in there is there. And they felt it was
that's
all
wonderful.
there. So
Yeah.
So my question was about all the other policies that we have. Does this supersede them, take them out? Do those need to be updated because of this? Like for some of these, like we have a harassment policy, but this one here under health and safety says we have a zero tolerance now for violence and harassment. I mean, I understand what zero tolerance means, but in terms of a policy, is that defined somewhere? Is it in line with our current harassment policies?
So that's a great question because when we were looking at we had recently I looked at our bullying and intervention plan, which is mentioned in our policy, right?
Yeah.
And it said something about it should be looked at every couple of years or whatever. So that's kind of embedded in there, and I didn't know. I wasn't sure either myself, just from an experience, if that's supposed to be embedded or not, because the other one was so short. So I don't know how that works exactly, but they kept referring to this as policy.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
so there's that one. Then again, back to the fundraising. Like
Yeah.
we have specific fundraising policies. We have
Right.
This paragraph talks about student exposure to marketing. We have specific policies around that. So I was just curious how they're all like. Which one do you go to?
Yeah.
One over the other? Should we get rid of the other ones? Put them all in here. Have one comprehensive thing. It's just that there's so much.
Right. We might want to do that only because I know the things that are in here are required, right? So it is covering everything. So maybe there's a way, and I know it can be confusing when there's 3 different.
Yeah, all the duplication.
Right,
is,
right.
It feels like that's a bigger project.
Right, right.
So maybe to do a cross.
I was actually wondering if we
Yeah.
could do a cross-reference
Yeah.
where we would put like it's policy ELL on the side of it or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
I don't know I don't know if it's to eliminate some of them. We could look at that too, if there were.
Either eliminate or just make sure that they're all in line, just like we did with the attendance.
Right,
You know?
exactly.
Right.
That's what I'm
Multiple-
thinking, Mike. But that's a
Yeah.
project. Yeah. No,
Okay. But that's but
but I like that idea.
yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
And
too.
certainly,
So-
we're going to continue to meet. So, like, if at a certain point we want to,
Yeah.
that can be our next set of
Yeah.
things to look at is how they compare to some of the other things that they overlap with.
Absolutely.
Because you're right, that
Love that
does get a little
idea.
confusing. So, okay.
Just so you know where to turn if you have those questions, and you can just say, "Oh, I'll go back and look at that policy." or
Right,
something.
right,
So-
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Sally, what happens? What needs to happen now? Does this have to be approved? Are you looking for an approval of this policy as is right now?
So now
Yeah.
I'm just offering it like because we did it,
Okay.
and they felt that compared to the other one, this one fit all the criteria, and just
Versus,
submitting
right.
it to have it replaced, I guess.
Versus this one that was I forgot
Already
what
in
this
there,
two-
right.
It says it was revised in 2019.
Mm-hmm. And
21.
it's got things in there that, I mean, there are some things in there, but it's just a lot, it's vague, and it doesn't have some of
It
those
is,
particular
yeah.
details that they said really should be in there.
So we could safely replace this,
I
replace this
feel
one
so-
with
yes.
this one at this point, but then we could go back and do more work around, maybe even just to update the policy for next year.
Is it still a thing before this policy to take recess away from kids if they're misbehaving? Is that still done?
I don't think that was happening anyway, but
Yeah.
it was just one of the things they talked about,
that-
how you can't use certain things for punishment or
Yeah.
whatever. So we just made sure it was in there, but it wasn't that there was
Well,
a
I'm saying
problem.
that, but I missed a lot of recess as a kid.
No.
Mostly for working on my penmanship, which you don't do cursive writing anymore. So
Right,
I guess I can say.
Every single.
I think you know.
That's the way to throw it in.
I do love
No,
cursive.
but
I know what
but
you're saying, but
it
I-
was a thing.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
a thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is it not a thing only because of this policy, or does he step in at some point and say that, or like has that been a thing for a while now?
It just should not be a thing.
I know it
Right.
should
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
Is it a
I
DESI
get it,
policy?
And,
but
and
it
I'll be
had
honest
to.
with you,
Go back
I don't
and
know
check.
how long,
It's
and it's the first time I
strongly-
had seen it in writing. I just thought it was
It's
one of
not
those
a
things you know
policy
you shouldn't be
from-
doing those things.
I actually think it might even be, but I'd have to go back and check if it's
Okay.
written,
Yeah.
but.
It is
But it-
just bad practice. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think any teachers, I wouldn't
Right.
think teachers in our district
Yeah,
would do,
I
because
think
those
so.
are the kids that need it the most, usually the ones that can't sit still.
Right.
But that was in the assessment tool. It was one of the things they did, like,
Yeah.
make sure that's in there, you know?
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, yeah, we will.
Yeah.
I know. It was one of those things I read, I was like, oh, who's doing that? You know? I hope nobody.
This is in here for a reason.
Yeah, yeah. But,
And really,
yeah.
it really falls on the elementary level too. It's never going to fall on the
Oh,
high
yeah,
school
high school
level.
level,
So.
yeah.
And I think, you know, meeting with a student to remediate something is
Right,
different
yeah,
anyway than
yeah. Some of
using
them wanna
food as
stay
a
in.
punishment or whatever.
Oh,
you know what I
right.
mean?
The piece about optional physical activity opportunities after school. High school and middle school have sports, obviously, but what about the elementary schools?
Oh, let me take a look at that.
Because I know
What page is that?
this is a thing we've been having, right?
Yeah.
In Berlin, they have a ton of activities. They can do all sorts, not so much in BES. One of the things we talked about in the committee meeting was how to equate those or offer more or the same or whatever. People have talked about combining PTOs or making a actual district position as like a PTO core or like a enrichment coordinator or something like that. Like, but now we're saying we have a policy where you will have activities optional after school for physical activity. So how
Oh,
is
here
that
it
going
is.
to play out at the elementary level?
I'm just trying to see if maybe we forgot to add the word elementary in there. If it's just a
Sorry, what
missing.
page is
Yeah,
it
I
on?
think I found it. It's the optional physical activity opportunities.
Yeah.
High school, middle school, offer
Right,
interscholastic sports programs.
So would that be like flag football?
Yeah.
I suppose that could be one, yeah.
You know, I'll go back and look at our other drafts and see if it's supposed to say also elementary. We went through it so many times. I want to say no, but maybe it should be there. You know, so
Yeah.
I'll look into that.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, looks good.
All right, great.
Thank
Alright,
you.
any
You
other
did a
questions?
ton
Yeah,
of
thank
work
you
on
very
this.
much.
It's-
Appreciate that.
Really
Yeah.
love this. It's-
Yeah, it is.
Those are really good questions too, as we.
I bet you they
move
were they
forward.
impressed by it?
Yeah, they really liked it.
I bet they
yeah,
were.
They were happy with it. Yeah,
It's
and
like-
they were so nice and so helpful. And
That's great.
Yeah, it was a great. And actually, they're. I think it's Lisa Mayer and Lisa Lamro and I are going to a little wellness conference about it because they were so happy with it in May. So,
That's wonderful.
Yeah, down in Norwood, I think. So.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
great.
Yeah.
Good things.
Lots of hard work.
Thank you.
Thank
Well, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Anything else for policies upcoming meeting?
No,
That's it.
Motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Second. All right, 1:44, we will adjourn.
Mm.